Welcome. Today we're talking with Julia Johnson. She's the Director Talent Management Consulting for Wipfli. Julia works extensively with banks. She's a frequent speaker at Banking Association events and is a faculty member of the Graduate School of Banking at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Julia, thank you and welcome to today's Banker Digest.
Good morning and thank you.
So Julia, there are so many topics we could discuss today. I'd like to focus on the big resignation that we are all experiencing in the labor market. From your perspective, is this phenomenon limited to the COVID disruption, or would you expect it to continue?
That's a great question, Larry, and I think one that has been talked about by many individuals. And suffice it to say, COVID has exacerbated the situation. It has not brought the situation to the reality that it is today. As we take a look at the various generations, we know that the baby boomer generation was quite large, and it was followed by a significantly smaller generation known as Gen X. So in and of itself, we already were introducing a dynamic for what would be known as natural progressions of leadership, baby boomers stepping out at 10,000 per day. COVID has accelerated that departure oftentimes. Coming in next would be the Generation X, but considerably smaller. So we had some natural gaps in the availability of workforce to take on either leadership roles or even replacement at all levels in the organization. Then we have the Generation X, millennial generation enter into the picture. Again, a much larger generation. And this is why there's been such a significant focus on the acceleration of development of millennials. We need them in business and industry to help advance and fulfill our strategy, our goals, our objectives, and service to our customers. So absolutely, COVID is not the sole incident. And unfortunately, we're going to see an ongoing shortage of labor for many years to come. When we take a look even at the birth rates in the United States, let alone in the world, what the impact is that it's having on our workforce.
Great. Well, thank you, Julia. Really, the dynamics of these generations is very, very powerful. So, Julia, you're with your consulting practice, you're right in the middle of advising clients that are experiencing the big resignation. What are you talking about with your clients on how to address these challenges?
I'm talking about understanding and acting upon the talent management loop. And it starts with, what is your strategy? And how are we going to align our organizational structure with that? And as we align our organizational structure, what are the roles and responsibilities that accompany that? And how are we going to identify those individuals who possess the knowledge, skills, abilities, the appropriate behaviors to perform and execute on those roles? One thing that I know the organization needs to focus on is ensuring that their employees understand what's expected out of them all the way around. And once those expectations are identified, what is the learning and development initiatives that the organization will need to go through to ensure their people are appropriately trained and educated on how to how to execute the function of that job? We then need to have those conversations about ongoing dialogue with our associates to make sure that the bank is fully aware of where are their employees at from an attachment, from an engagement perspective. How are they feeling about the culture and all of the soft skills that we know are so critical? Banks need to focus on the development of their managers because we know the one-on-one relationship that a manager has with its employees is crucial to the relationship the employee has with the bank itself. And then, of course, we cannot step away from the big topic of the day oftentimes, and that's compensation. There is so much competition for talent, which is driving up the cost of wages. So organizations and banks are needing to really evaluate, what am I paying my associates? And more importantly, we're finding that we have new sources of competition. So where in the past you may not have competed with a fast food restaurant for employees, you may be competing with them now because their wages are increasing just like you need to increase your wages. And if we compare role and responsibility and scope and focus of role of a financial institution has significantly more responsibility associated with it than some of the other organizations in the market today, which is causing an increase in wages as well.
Wow. The whole market dynamics of the labor force are very challenging from a skills and attribute and just access to labor force as you're describing. The number of available people is creating a challenge unto itself. But so Julia, as you know, banks are more and more technology driven today. how has the digital transformation of banking services impacted workforce needs, skills, and attributes?
The introduction and the advancement of technology has certainly made financial reporting easier, hopefully access for our customers into the utilization of our services easier. But it has impacted our employees in that we need to ensure that they possess the knowledge and skills to utilize the technology effectively. Oftentimes I experience where organizations are introducing new technology and they'll do some cursory training, and then they make the assumption that the employees will be able to figure it out on their own, which from my perspective leads to an ineffective use or an underutilization of the technology and the investment made by the bank. Therefore, I think it's incredibly critical that when we're introducing new technology, that we engage in training and education, and perhaps that is not just one time, but it's a recurring education piece of it. Maybe there's a subject matter expert that is the go-to person with questions. Perhaps there's a chat or a discussion or a dialogue about the quick hits, the tips and the tricks of how to use the technology, but certainly to have an ongoing discussion and dialogue and repetitive training, if you will, when new elements of technologies are identified, or when you're finding you're not getting the efficiencies that you once hoped for. Go back to the employees using the technology and ask, what can we do to help you understand the technology better or how to use it more effectively? Because at the end of the day, we're introducing technology to do more with less and or to be more efficient. And when we're finding that we're not being more efficient, sometimes it's rests with, do the employees have the knowledge to execute and utilize the technology as efficiently as possible? Could be a knowledge gap.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The technology itself, a lot of benefits, but if we don't continue to engage, educate,
Right.
and kind of have that feedback loop with the employees and their use of the technology, then we're all missing out on its benefits. Great.
You
All right,
brought
well,
up an important point there too, if you don't mind if I add a little context. Whenever you're introducing something new, when you mentioned that feedback loop, it automatically triggered the importance and criticality of change management. Because when we go through the introduction of technology, we're going through a project management. When we're trying to bring our employees with us, that's when we're really getting involved with the change management. How do we bring our people with us? Who are the stakeholders? What is the messaging? What are the pieces and the parts that can enhance and lift the opportunity for the organization to be successful in that change and introduction of technology?
Great. Thank you for emphasizing the change management aspect and differentiating it from the classical project management. That's a really important point. So Julia, thank you for helping us understand and address the human capital issues and challenges of the Great Resignation.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. So in closing, thank you for joining today's Banker Digest. If you have additional questions for Julia, please see the link in her bio.